All right, welcome everyone. This is Josh Lamb. I'm the business development team for DNS Filter, and we're really excited to bring Terry Hedden on here today, really as part of a series that we're doing, just to be more valuable to MSPs. We want to be sure to put out great content for you guys, and so we're actually going to have a 5-webinar series covering trends in managed services, which is the one today, social media marketing. Building a managed services sales team and sales techniques. And all of these are free. So we're calling it Webinar Wednesdays, and it's going to be starting today, every other Wednesday into the future. And so hope that you guys sign up for more of that. Also, if any of you guys are going to Las Vegas next week, the DNS Filter team will be at ChannelCon. So go ahead and say hi. We would love to see you there. And we have actually a dinner on Monday night. So if you're able to come, we're going to send out email invitations for that. Again, another free event, and we actually have Beer Park right across from the Bellagio, so look forward to seeing you guys there. Just a little bit about Terry Hedden, who's the presenter today. What we're actually, his life, he started as an entrepreneur at the age of 14, started his own MSP, and actually grew it exponentially until he sold it to an investor. And now he works as the CEO of Marketopia, and we're really glad to have him today. So welcome, Terry.
Oh, thank you very much. It's great to be here and look forward to working with you over the next 5 webinar series, hopefully add a lot of value and help your partners achieve some extraordinary things. So with that, let's go ahead and kick it off. Again, Josh mentioned that I am a recovering MSP. I certainly have sold a lot of managed services. I was an MSP before really there was an MSP. I launched in 2003 with a fixed cost IT model, and obviously bought all the tools, Kaseya, Autotask, and really kind of was one of the early stage MSPs out there. Now I work with about 120 MSPs, helping them grow their business. So I'm very familiar with what's in the market. I really am familiar with what works, where the money is to be made, where the leads are to be obtained, and how you close those leads. So we're going to really talk about managed services because this obviously represents a bastion of profit, a bastion of opportunity, and frankly is a great way to improve the quality of life of the business owner. It's fixed, it's recurring revenue. Marketopia is an MSP, obviously. We're more of a marketing MSP, but we do fixed cost marketing. So our recurring revenue is about $500,000 a month at this point, a little bit bigger than what my MSP got in 6.5 years. But it's nice to run a business that way when you know your expenses are covered, you know your profits covered. So managed services is definitely something that a lot of people want. They want that recurring revenue, that profitability, the high profit, high margin sales. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and explore, I guess, how we can launch and build very profitable managed service practices ourselves. For those of you who don't know CompTIA, there's a lot there. There's the CompTIA ChannelCon coming up next week in Vegas. There's a lot of training and market intelligence that they offer. They represent us to the U.S. government, the technology industry, so they do a lot of great works. In fact, you can download or become a member of CompTIA for free and get a lot of white papers, case studies, videos, webinars, things that I've written and presented. You can download and watch whenever you want. That's just some great content out there, and it's free. Even the paid version is a really minor expense. So highly recommend enjoying that CompTIA talent. It certainly help you grow your business. Today, we're going to talk about managed services. Why? What the internal operations look like, how you can strategically plan, and then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. So when people are looking at their managed services capabilities today, this is obviously something where more and more people are becoming skilled at it. Only 2 people are kind of new into the market, but 77% of people consider themselves skilled experts. But 6 in 10 from larger firms consider themselves skilled experts. So it's important to kind of understand that not everyone has got this nailed. So if you're one of the people who maybe isn't as evolved, maybe you're not growing at 50% a year, which is what I was able to do. If you're not kind of as profitable as you'd like, understand that it's normal. It's a big change in thinking and how you run your business. from a project-centric model, hardware-centric model, to more of a recurring service-oriented model. So people are investing in it because it's worth doing, but not everyone is an expert at this point yet. As you can tell here, if you look at the managed services industry overall, you look around 98% of people are either competent or a skilled expert. So we are all invested in getting here. Everybody is trying to become an MSP and an evolved MSP that focuses on cloud-centric offerings. So it's a great place to be, and certainly the opportunity to become a profitable MSP has frankly never been better. A lot of people will be pessimistic and talk to you about commoditization, but honestly, we're really not seeing that out there. If you have a good marketing firm and you're able to differentiate your products and services, you're able to create a compelling value proposition of why people will go with you. You just don't have the commoditization that people talk about. Now, if you're a firm who doesn't have that differentiation, then yeah, it can be difficult. And that's where you'll see the people in this graph sort of struggling a little bit. They tend to be competing on price, which is a bad way to run a business because it's very difficult to maintain profitability if you're trying to become the low-cost provider, especially in their industry. So why are people trying to become MSPs? Number one, they realize that downtime is the death of its service engineer, right? If you're not able to utilize your engineers for a high percentage of a 40-hour work week, it's very easily to drop into a non-profitable business model, right? So people are trying to improve service utilizations, and managed service providers are able to achieve utilization in excess of 80% for their engineers on average, and some of them are even higher than that. Number two, increasing sales, especially high margin, high dollar, recurring revenue managed services sales, right? That's cloud, recurring service delivery, cloud-based products like DNS Filter. It's a great opportunity and easy to sell if you get good at selling recurring revenue over long-term commitments. We also see a lot of people that are able to get 3- and 5-year contracts with annual price escalations built in. So it's a great way to stabilize your company and to have a growth rate that you can maintain over years and even decades. Third, protecting the customer base, right? It's no secret that if it's good for an MSP, it's probably going to be good for their clients as well, right? Preventing issues, preventing downtime, a manageable monthly budget. Those are all very positive things that customers enjoy. So if you don't offer those services and people come into your customer base and start offering them, cloud services would be another example of that, you risk losing your customers because someone else is bringing them value and bringing them an opportunity to improve the stability or security of their business. So you got to be careful not to lose them. Number 4 is minimizing financial risk. There's no question that running a business is a risky proposition. You can have a bad quarter, bad year, make a bad decision, and quickly slip into the negative. Managed services allows you to minimize that because you have a recurring revenue stream that you can offset with expenses. Making an investment is not nearly as scary when you know that next month you're going to make $500,000 even if you don't sell anything net new. So there's a lot more stability in your P&L, recurring profitability. I'll never forget the day when my labor costs were filled with recurring revenue, and then sometime later, all of my costs filled by untimed revenue, to where it gets to the point where you have recurring profit just from your recurring contracts, and anything you sell net new just drops straight to the bottom line. So great opportunity to reduce financial risk. There's a lot of opportunity out there to expand your wallet share, get more from your existing customers. It's very profitable to do more for the same customers because you don't have that general overhead associated with a net new client. Recurring revenue streams, we've talked a lot about that already. We're going to talk more about it. That's the name of the game. That's why people become MSPs. They want recurring revenue from selling DNS Filter, from selling Azure, from selling a recurring managed service type model. Any kind of cloud service would be bundled into that. There's a lot of opportunity to build recurring revenue out there in the IT space right now, including hardware and software, actually. A lot of people are moving to recurring revenue for hardware and software, and that represents yet another opportunity to have some of that cherished recurring profitable services. They like to control all aspects of the offering. One thing that MSPs do that VARs don't do is not define vendors. In other words, if they decide that a particular AV or a DNS filter might be better for their customers, they control that. In other words, they're offering DNS filtering, but if you decide that maybe your current DNS filtering vendor isn't very good, you want to move over to DNS filter, you can just do that. You don't have to ask their permission or go through a sales cycle. You just make that change. It allows a lot of flexibility for the MSP to improve margins by moving to lower cost products, or to improve customer service because you're going to a better product. And then 8, get to market quickly. right? It's easy to fund recurring revenue projects and marketing because the recurring revenue tends to go on for years or even decades. In fact, the average lead for managed services, if you go out there and do the actual calculations from the average MSP, is around $10,000 per lead of value. So you can invest a lot in getting those leads when you know that there's high margin, high dollar recurring revenue out there that comes with the sale. So when you look at the revenue breakdown between IT solutions and projects and managed services, there's still market out there for IT solutions and projects, right? 44% of MSPs rank IT solutions and projects as their top revenue generator. 12% rank at number 2. And if you go over to the managed services model, 29% rank this as their top revenue generator, and 21% rank at number 2. So what that should tell you is that not everyone's an MSP. People are offering managed services, but MSPs tend to have the lion's share of their revenue wrapped up in this recurring managed services type model. Whereas VARs obviously are the exact opposite. They're more weighted over toward IT solutions and projects. So everyone's investing in getting more managed services, but not everyone has achieved the 50% or more recurring revenue that we so want. And that's how I would define an MSP. If you have a recurring revenue, managed services, cloud type revenue model where you're achieving more than half of your revenue by managed services, I would consider that an MSP, a true managed service provider. Everyone else is a VAR sort of making the transition over, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And as you can tell by looking at it, almost half of all VARs and MSPs still have the lion's share of their revenue coming from IT solutions and projects. If you look at the bottom, it's really interesting by company size, right? The larger the firm, the more likely they are to command the revenue dominated by IT solutions and projects. And that's because large, by measure of company size, tends to be longer tenured companies, right? They've built their business over time, which means by definition, basically, they started as a VAR. So they slowly are migrating their revenue stream over to a managed services recurring revenue model, but they're not they're not there yet, right? Only 34% of large firms cite managed services their number one revenue generator. So everyone's making the transition. The smaller, more agile firms are more successful at doing it. And I'll tell you this, you can be a very large company that's a VAR and make a lot less money net profit wise than a very small MSP. So there's a very small correlation between revenue and profit for a VAR and the services, a project type revenue, very lower margins, whereas managed service providers can easily get gross margins north of 50% and net margins anywhere from 10 to 40% net, whereas a VAR might be struggling to get to 10%. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Smaller firms tend to be more successful at making this transition because they're not held down by legacy contracts and relationships, right? They're not dependent on that hardware sale to keep the business running. So where's the market going over the next 2 years, right? Most people see that it's a high growth opportunity, right? 75% or more of their revenue they see growing across all sizes of businesses, right? So 50, 60% consider high growth where this is going. So if you look at your business and you're looking at the lines of business in it, what do you see growing the fastest? That is almost always managed services. The reason is very simple. Every sale is accretive to revenue. So if this year if you add $3,000 a month in managed services, at the end of the year you're at 36,000 RMR, right? Which is what I would say is the expectation going in. If you have a decent marketing engine, you should be able to add $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000 recurring to your revenue every year. Well, the beautiful thing about that is that it's compounded. So the next year you start at that 36,000 RMR, and then you're adding an additional 3,000. So by the end of the second year, you're at 72,000. So if you kind of do those numbers, you can see how people see exponential growth when it comes to managed services because it's recurring. And if you're a good MSP, you keep your customers. And if you're a really good MSP, you have contracts that help you keep your customers. Only 1 to 4% of companies see managed services as flat. So what you can see here is that everyone sees growth in managed services. It is not coincidental. There's a tremendous opportunity out there in cloud. Recurring cloud services like DNS Filter, Azure, AWS, Office 365. There's a lot of different services out there that are representing probably the greatest opportunity that our industry has had since the invention of the PC, right? When the managed services VAR market was born was really around the advent of the PC, right? And that was a tremendous opportunity to bring compute to businesses, especially small businesses. Whereas cloud represents that same level of opportunity because a tremendous number of people are moving their premise-based equipment and software over to the cloud. And savvy MSPs are understanding that there's a tremendous amount of money to be made now, and cloud services allow you to reduce your cost of sales so much that you're able to get less revenue in cloud and actually far more net profit. So everyone sees opportunity here. Don't believe the hype, the pessimism out there. A lot of people that aren't growing, frankly, can almost 100% of the people not growing right now can be attributed to poor marketing. Most MSPs are good at sales, but most MSPs struggle at marketing. In fact, 94% of MSPs cite marketing is the number one issue they have in business. So growth is there. Big growth is expected. 75% growth over the next 2 years. The market is hot. So people who have established businesses are concerned with maybe mining some of their existing revenue, right? What revenue declines as managed services grows in revenue? The logical piece here is product sales and then the project work that goes along with implementing them, right? So you do see declines in cloud. Then I'll give you an example. You might move to a Datto offsite backup solution, let's say, right? A BUDR kind of appliance. Well, that's going to sell for a very small upfront fee, right? You don't get the $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 projects for implementing a backup disaster recovery piece of equipment. It's a much more of a recurring revenue stream. So you're trading the upfront revenue with a longer term, very profitable, which meant Datto can easily be north of 40% net profit. You have that go on for life. So instead of blips in revenue, you get steady growth in recurring revenue over time. And frankly, you make a lot more money over time than you would with the POPs. And it's a lot easier to run a business when you can sort of implement a solution like DNS Filter and just set it and forget it, let it ride, and just raise your price over time. So there is a cannibalization, I guess, of hardware, project work, and maybe even consulting services. But everything else is a positive, right? You see the recurring revenue go up, the profit go up, the margins are going up. It tends to be a very positive thing over time, but the transition can be difficult, especially if you're really dependent on spiffs, back-end rebates, the float on projects. Maybe if you buy a piece of equipment, you might get paid for it and not have to pay for it for 90 days. There's a lot of firms that struggle with the transition because of those issues. So when we say managed services, right, what does that actually mean? There are a tremendous number of product categories out there, right? And they're all almost ubiquitously offered. In other words, once you get into this game and you see the opportunity for how easy it is to sell a low upfront investment and then a recurring revenue stream over time, how much your customers like it, how much your P&L likes it, how much your accountant likes it, how much your family likes it, people get into that business and then go all in, right? So they're bringing in security around firewall management, server management, storage, network management, desktop management. You have north of 70% penetration. And then if you look at the plan to offer, it almost is the rest of it, right? So most people are either offering or plan to offer everything in the solution stack as a managed service. You're even seeing hardware rapidly accelerate. It's not above 65% yet, but people are starting to sell hardware as a recurring service instead of an upfront investment. And what you're seeing overall is that people are investing more and more in it, right? 59% of people see offering more managed services in the future. Only a quarter are looking at it staying the same, and only 3% see a decrease in the service mix. In other words, maybe they're going back to premise for some of the services offered. So how do MSPs approach offering cloud-based services? A full half, it's a strategic part of their MSP catalog. They're leading with it, right? They're trying to push it out there, promote it first. 44% are more, they want the client to recommend it, right? Instead of selling that box product or the hardware, they wait for their customer to ask. That's a dangerous game, because if you wait for your customer to ask of something that's better for them, you don't proactively bring it up, then you risk a competitor coming in and doing that. So only 3% of firms are not part of an MSP catalog. They don't offer cloud-based services. So this myth that cloud isn't big in MSPs is very much a myth. Almost every MSP, and I would say almost every profitable MSP, is heavy into cloud, and the ones that are most profitable are focusing on it. In fact, here's a story for you. If you kind of are doubting the opportunity in cloud, I had a friend of mine who grew his business over 36 months, so 3 years, and he sold for $27 million, and he only did cloud services. So there's a tremendous amount of money to be made. It increases the valuation, your net profit. It's definitely a win-win. So how good are you at actually operating your MSP, right? Are you efficient? So when people look at the operational measure of how well they're running their business, 76% of them consider themselves a very efficient, well-oiled machine. 24% are a little more humble. They say, you know what, we've got to get better at doing what it is we do, okay? And where you're seeing this is in the organizational maturity. The more mature the MSP, the more efficient they are. And I'll give you an example. If you wait for word of mouth leads to come in, you end up having feast and famine. It's either there or it's not. It's there or it's not. And you create this wave of inbound clients. Well, that wave of inbound clients in the sales side becomes a wave of work on the service side. So you end up having peaks and valleys. You can never staff appropriately because you can't staff for the peaks because there's not enough margin to do that, right? But if you staff for the valleys, you can't handle the work when it comes in. So it becomes a very inefficient business, right? So the more mature service providers have an operational department functioning in all areas, a functional accounting department, for example, a functional sales department that closes net new leads, a functional marketing department that brings in net new leads, a functional service department that can implement net new clients and take care of them over time. So maturity comes over time, and you'll find that the more savvy the MSP, the more they understand the importance of maturing their entire company, not just their service division. Amateur or less mature MSPs tend to focus on hiring techs and bringing in tools, and less focused on back office like accounting or the front of the process, marketing and sales. So that's where that efficiency comes in. When you have a more reliable flow of leads, a more reliable flow of sales, more reliable flow of service, you can get a lot better because you can staff appropriately and build processes around a consistent flow of net new clients and servicing existing customers. But if you look at these, people are optimistic, right? They're getting there. They either are there or they're getting there. A lot of people see that they're maturing. This industry overall is maturing. So people are getting better every day. So what are the challenges that people see? First of all, I want you to kind of realize that a good chunk of them say there's no challenge at all, right? You got 10, 15, 20% of people say, that all of this is actually easy. Now, I want you to see that because first of all, it's possible that there's no challenge at all. But more importantly, if you are seeing challenge, other people are experiencing the same thing. They're experiencing struggles when it comes to retraining their technical resources, right? 45% of people cite that as a major challenge. Sales comp is a huge one too. People sell and people do things that are in their best interest. So if your model is built where the hardware and software is more profitable in the short term for a salesperson, they're going to be more likely to sell that. So you have to evolve your sales compensation model to be one that favors the recurring managed services type model. You got to retrain your business. 40% of that, people think that's a major concern, right? 83% consider it to be at least a minor challenge. You got to build your business around managed services. It's not an easy thing. VARs tend to sell based on liking things, being impressed by technology, speeds and feeds, the bits and the bytes, the megahertz, the gigahertz. They tend to focus on that. Whereas managed services, frankly, is sold based on peace of mind. They sell peace of mind. And that's the service they actually sell. And there can be an adjustment there when you have a sales team who's built on slinging boxes and competing on price and selling based on the features and benefits of the technology itself. 86% of people cite automating of IT functions to be a challenge, right? There's a lot of opportunity to automate in managed services. With a great RMM tool, you can automate a lot of service capabilities, and that's where the margin comes in because you can decrease the level of engineer that supports your clients, and you can also decrease the number of engineers you need when you've automated enough and created more of a self-healing type network. Pricing structure is also a challenge, and this one always kind of amazes me. There are firms out there that will help you build your business model. So if you're struggling with how to price it, seek help. There's a lot of people out there to help you. And then I don't think it's any secret right now that with the economy as strong as it is, everyone is struggling to maintain their talent and to hire net new. Every industry is struggling, especially in the tech industry. getting great people has always been a problem, but even getting good people is a problem right now. When you have unemployment sub 2%, regardless of your political persuasion, it's hard to argue with the fact that our economy is strong here in the U.S. and many other parts of the country. And it's hard to find good people because they're getting scooped up and getting paid more and more every day. Pricing, one of those big mysteries. And I will tell you that this is an easy one, okay? 24% of people are still pricing per device. That is a recipe for disaster. Thankfully, that percentage of people that price that way drops day after day. And the reason is because with the cloud, there's going to be less servers. There's going to be less servers. More and more servers are being moved to the cloud, either as dedicated servers in a infrastructure as a service or platform as a service environment, or the software itself is being rewritten to be native to the cloud, like Salesforce, for example. So where people used to have a server running a CRM locally, now they have Salesforce where there's no server. Why that's so big is that most MSPs, if they actually look at their profitability, lose money on every PC support, every PC, and then make it up on the servers and network. So if the servers dry up, then you can quickly slip into profitability issues. What you have to do is price based on user or user consumption. So that you have 1,000 employees, therefore you're at $98 per user. Or you can say, if you use a PC, it's this. If you use a PC and an iPad, it's a different price. That's user consumption. And then 13% have a very immature model where they don't factor in the different intensities of a technology stack. So a company that has 20 servers and 40 people should pay more per person than a company that has 2 servers and 40 people. So if you have a fixed fee model, you either have to build in a tremendous amount of margin in there to correspond to that risk of having an intense network, or and unfortunately a high margin built in can reduce your close rate for competitive sales, which is a major problem in the industry. People who have advocated the $150, $200 fixed fee model, regardless of company, lose about 99%, 95% of all opportunities they go on that are competitive. They tend to only be able to close word of mouth leads. So it's really important that you kind of move your body of sales that you offer to more of a user or user consumption based model. That's going to protect you the most and allow you to build in the cost of supporting the cloud, just like you did supporting the premise-based infrastructure. Employee retention is a challenge, minor to major, depending on the maturity of your MSP, I would say. But 80% of MSPs cite that at least one of their technicians resigned last year to join an IT department. And why is that such a big deal? First of all, engineers that have experience working with within an MSP tend to be extremely attractive to both other MSPs who are trying to buy working knowledge and to IT departments. IT departments benefit from the breadth and the wealth of experience that an MSP gives its engineers. So it's a major, major challenge. So savvy MSPs have non-compete, non-solicitation agreements to keep people from going to their competitors. Not all geographies allow those, but those that do are certainly recommended, and I would say highly recommended. There's nothing that can crush you more than a large outflow of engineers leaving your MSP. We have a competitor here locally that laid off, not locally where I am today in Denver, Colorado, but where I live in Florida, that laid off half of their staff twice during their recession. It's a major problem, and it affected their business for life. It set them back probably a decade, and so you don't want to do that. You don't want to lose your people. So how do you launch an MSP practice? The number one thing you have to do is to be able to sell. Nothing happens until someone sells something. So what you want to do is to invest in lead generation for managed services and make sure you have a good salesperson that can close it. That's what starts the process. So many MSPs think that they have to get perfect at service before they start selling. You can get perfect at service while you're selling. If you don't do it the right way, you can actually drastically increase the expense side of your P&L and turn a profitable MSP or VAR into an unprofitable department. You have to line up the maturation of every aspect of your business together. So back office, accounting, for example, needs to have a better billing system often for managed service providers because there's so many nickels and dimes that are billed to customers, right? From incremental service fees to incremental products like DNS Filter that you might charge just a small amount per month. If a human being has to input that on an invoice every month, then it can quickly become unprofitable because there's not enough margin to pay even the the finance person for doing the billing, much less the engineer doing the work. Then 56% invest in building a network operations center. 53% invest train existing sales reps. I personally do this a tremendous amount, both with an e-learning platform as well as on-site things. As a matter of fact, that's where I am now at a ConnectWise event in Denver. 49% use a third-party NOC. This is a big deal. You can either insource your NOC or outsource your NOC to a person like Continuum or Kaseya IT Services. There's a lot of different third-party NOCs out there that are specific to the RMM tools that you're using. A lot of people are going to them because, on average, it's more profitable to do that, frankly. I'm not a person that recommends outsourcing your help desk, but there are a lot of people who do that as well. A network operations center is more the monitoring, patch management, things like that. 49% of people have to restructure their sales comp model. I can tell you that should be 100%. One of the primary reasons people fail in managed services, there's two primary reasons. Number one is they don't have the right compensation model for their sales team to recommend it, or two, they don't have any leads to give their sales team. 48% did something that I think is very savvy: obtain credit or access to capital. Anytime you're making a change in your business, you want to take a little bit of the pressure off by having lines of credit you can tap if things take longer than you thought or cost more than you thought they would. 38% retain technical staff, and 27%, only a quarter, investing in commercial software applications like PSA tools, RMM tools, things like that. So why are people making the decision to invest in a PSA or professional services automation tool or an RMM tool, which is called remote monitoring and manage? Basically, that's how you create a profitable MSP. You get good at billing, you get good at remotely supporting and preventing issues. That's how you drive profitability into your business. So savvy VARs and MSPs are investing in these PSA and RMM tools, often and highly recommend where they integrate. Examples there might be Datto. They have a PSA and an RMM tool. You have ConnectWise, ConnectWise Manage, right? And then you have TigerPaws, another PSA tool. On the RMM side, all the PSA tools have RMMs as well, or you can go to a third party like SolarWinds or Continuum or something like that. But there's a lot of great tools out there, and they're very good, and they all will do a lot to help your business be more profitable. So take a look at everything that's out there and make the decision that's best for you. But as you can see in here, it comes down to efficiency. It comes down to lack of data entry. It helps the service teams service, the billing teams bill, and the sales teams sell. All of these tools go a long way in helping you drive profitability and being good at what you do. The last thing you want to do is to have a lot of manual integrations that are prone to human failure. So when you're evaluating an RMM and a PSA tool, understand that most people see it as a highly profitable thing. In fact, 98% of people consider it a worthwhile investment. Only 2% consider it disappointing. And I would go on to tell you that those that consider it somewhat disappointing are probably very, very, very small MSPs that frankly don't need the integrations because they have a very small, maybe a 1 or 2 man practice. It's very ubiquitous now. Almost everyone has PSA and RMM tools, especially successful when they invest in the deployment. If they try to go on the cheap and do it themselves, just like any software product, they can be complicated and more complicated than maybe you expected, and you can make mistakes if you try to do things yourselves. Another mistake people make is interoperability. It's important, for instance, so I'm in the marketing side, it's important for your marketing firm to be integrated with your CRM system. There should be an electronic integration and interoperability. It's also important for your RMM tool to be integrated with your PSA tool. The more integrations you have, the more efficiency you have, the less manual integrations, and the less likeliness of a problem there. So how do you kind of do the math? How many seats per pet tech is there needed, for example? About 36%, there's a typical bell curve here, right? For every 30 full-time, full outsourcing users, there's hiring of a tech. And I would tell you that the better MSPs tend to be better on these numbers, right? So they might get to 40 or 50 new seats to hire a technician. This is, again, for already full MSPs. A lot of MSPs are overstaffed. They tend to have, because of the whipping of net new customers coming in, they tend to be overstaffed much of the time. For a lot of MSPs, frankly, they can add more seats to their revenue without adding any technicians overall. But once you get to full utilization, this is a good chart to kind of help you understand how it's important to do that. But I would tell you here, especially on the low end, if you're hiring an engineer every 10 new seats, you're getting, let's say, $100 per user per month, maybe as a number. If you're getting for every 10 new seats or 1,000 in recurring revenue, if you're having to hire an engineer, you're probably very much losing money. And the reason there is because obviously it costs a lot more than $1,000 to hire an engineer per month, right? So if you're only getting $1,000 in and you're spending 4,000 out, you got a big problem. Similarly on 30 new seats, right? So I would tell you that when you look at this graph, this is probably people who are not quite fully staffed, and they answer this question by saying, I could add 30 more users, and there's only a 36% chance I need to add engineers. That's how I would interpret this graph, because you need to have net new seats need to be 50, 60, 70,000 so that you have money left over once you pay the engineer to do the work. What's keeping MSPs awake at night? Well, first of all, I can tell you that one of the most beautiful parts of running an MSP is that a lot of those premise-based concerns that were haunting everyone a decade ago go away. For instance, Exchange, host or premise-based Exchange, a corrupt data store, for example. That's a tremendously large problem. It was a tremendously large problem back in the day. Now that one goes away. So what keeps people wake up at night now? It's really about, I guess, bigger picture things. It's not a technical concern anymore. Cloud, or maybe people's lack of maturity in selling and servicing cloud, keeps them up at night. They know that it's a very powerful wave that's coming. They know that they need to be on board, but a lot of people are struggling to make that transition. So it's probably keeping them up at night. Customer demand is a big one, right? Again, most MSPs don't market. They're very poor at generating demand for their services. They don't invest. You should invest 3 to 10% of your revenue in marketing. So if you're not doing that, then yeah, there's a 57% chance that what's keeping you up at night is that you're not getting new customers. Margin erosion is a problem for some, and most of those is because they have overqualified engineers. One of the benefits of moving to cloud is that you can have a lower skilled and lower paid resource to do the work, because a lot of the higher end engineering is actually done by the cloud service company. 52% customer acquisition costs. Those people tend to be relying on salespeople to generate their own leads. Therefore, the cost of lead acquisition and sales gets very much out of control. You want to have marketing people that are focused on bringing in leads at the lowest cost, and then giving them to a salesperson that gets really good at closing them. That's how you reduce your customer acquisition costs. 42% of people see consolidation in the market. People are getting bought and sold every single day. 42% see changing standards for MSP contracts. And this is interesting. Only 28% are concerned with new competitors coming in. Everybody is coming into the market, but people are just getting used to it now. You have copier equipment dealers getting in. That's who bought my MSP. You have telcos getting into managed services. You have law firms. You have CPAs. There's a lot of different people coming out of the woodwork to get into managed services. And the reason is very simple: margins and profitability. So if you want to rank your strategic goals immediately, the number one priority for most MSPs is net new customers. It's the same theme that we've seen in almost every slide. People are struggling with lead gen. People are struggling with sales. And it's very sad for me because it's totally optional. People are just not doing marketing, so therefore they're struggling. Getting leads is actually very simple if you know what you're doing. Closing them is actually very simple if you're good at it. 58% want to sell more to existing people. That's a major priority, and I commend them for that. Additional sales to customers that are already integrated with your business tend to be very profitable because you don't have that overhead associated with a new customer. You also are increasing your stickiness because you're offering more services to the same number of customers, thus making you harder to replace. Expanding into new services like Internet of Things, for example, a big one. You see a lot of people that are plugging in things like DNS filter into their service line, VoIP into their service line, Internet of Things, maybe even like HVAC controls, kind of plugging the HVAC controls and getting into managing really anything that connects to the network. 56% of people want to get more out of their techs. That's how you drive profitability in this industry, is to increase the utilization of your engineers so that you need fewer to support more work. 54% are kind of looking at vertical specialization. And I can tell you, my MSP serviced a lot of different industries, but we did a good job of marketing ourselves as having specialization in a lot of verticals as well. So we were kind of a hybrid, vertically specialized MSP. 53% are considered a priority to look for new vendors that are offering solutions that prevent issues like DNS filter, for example, right? Preventing downtime, preventing their customers for causing issues with DNS filtering, with web surfing filtering, keeping people from doing dumb things. There are a lot of people that are out there looking for technologies like KnowBe4. For example, there's a lot of different vendors out there that are helping with that ID agent for the dark web. A lot of that. And then 50% of people cite the desire to go after non-IT buyers. A lot of the decisions now around IT are not being made by the CIO. In fact, a lot of different studies show that 30, 40, even 50% of technology spend is actually being spent by line of business leaders. Like Salesforce is being bought by CSOs, CROs, right? Salespeople, sales leadership. It's not being bought by IT. So a lot of IT people are starting to get savvy to that and targeting non-IT buyers for more revenue. So how are they tracking their performance? 92% of people have a formal business plan for recurring revenue. They have a plan. QuickBooks even makes this easy. What is my plan? What's my goal? And you can easily map this out. You know your close ratio. You know your average deal size. If you invest in a particular number of inbound leads per month, say 10 or 20, you can mathematically quantify what your revenue is going to do over time, right? So you can turn the dream of turning into a 10, 20, $30 million MSP. You can actually back that into how many customers you need, how many sales you need, and then how many customers you need, and how many sales that is, and how many leads you need to get that number of sales. You can easily do that math and factor into what you can actually create a business plan for your company. How often are MSPs talking strategic with their customers? The best, in my opinion, are either monthly or quarterly. Now, if you go too often, frankly, it's a big expense. Monthly is a good number. You want to make sure you're marketing that value using different reporting capabilities like Breakage, for example, to talk about the value you're offering. You make sure you demonstrate the value, because one of the benefits of an MSP is actually easily becomes a downside, which is you don't go out there as much. They don't see you as much. You're preventing issues, so they don't see you doing as much work. So you've got to make sure you get in front of them on a regular basis to show them the value that you're bringing, because they don't physically see you as much. What does acquisition cost for a new customer? This is something that is very important for people to understand, is that it costs money to get a customer. The beautiful thing about this chart is, first of all, I agree with it, and I'm in the lead generation businesses, okay? Most people are paying somewhere in that $1,000 to $2,500 per customer to acquire. Now, for a lot of smaller MSPs or less savvy business people out there, they might look at that and, frankly, fear it or get blown away by it, right? $2,500 to get a customer? Yeah, you have to pay a marketing person to get the lead, and you have to pay a salesperson to close it. The beautiful thing about this is the average lead, not sale, the average lead for an MSP is worth $10,000. So if you spend $1,000 to get a customer, and you get and that lead, not the sale, the lead is worth $10,000. That means every lead you get costs you $1,000, and you get $10,000 on average, which means you have a profit of $9,000. So you've got to kind of back away from the monthly billing, the monthly expense side, and think about the fact that you might spend $1,000 to get a lead, or $2,500 to get a lead, but you're going to get a customer that you're going to keep for 5 and 10 years. So you've got to compare that lifetime revenue and the lifetime profit to the expense of getting a new customer. When you do that, you'll start making better business decisions around marketing and sales, and drastically increase your revenue and profitability over time. Immature MSPs focus on the cost of a lead. Savvy MSPs understand and balance the value of a lead with the cost per lead, and that results in them investing in getting 10, 20, 30 net new managed services prospects a month, and that can have a drastic impact on your operation and your profitability. How do MSPs spend their time? The lion's share, work and think, right? Working managers, working owners, they're in the business, right? Working in the business. Only 47% of people separate from their business to really think strategically, right? I'm here at the used to be called HTD, now it's called ConnectWise Evolve. And these are business owners that are getting out of their business and spending time working on their business and not in their business, right? So there's a lot of peer groups out there with Taylor Business Group and other business groups out there. There's a lot of people that that can help you get away from the day-to-day and focus on working on your business and developing a more strategic approach to managing growth and profitability. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of information out there on CompTIA.org around managed services and many, many, many other topics. I encourage you to go out there and take a look. With that, we'll open it up to questions. You type in the questions window, I will answer them as they come in. So while you're typing, I'll kind of build on what we're saying. There's a lot of opportunity in managed services, guys. This is an opportunity to make a tremendous amount of money to build a very profitable, well-run, and consistently profitable organization. It's far more pleasurable to run an MSP versus a business that starts every month with $0. With the end of the month coming right now, so it's July 31st, tomorrow morning, I will make about $500,000 in revenue, right? With my net new residual income stream coming in. My managed service provider was much the same. Every month you start off with about $400,000, $500,000 in revenue. It's a whole lot easier to run a business when you have a fixed income stream than when you're struggling every month, starting with zero and needing sales to make payroll. So I would encourage you to really invest in managed services, invest in lead gen and running an MSP that's successful and profitable. Everybody out here that takes the risks associated with working in an MSP or running an MSP deserves to make a tremendous amount of money. Zach has asked our first question. Zach, how much do MSPs rely on income from on-site visits as opposed to remote services? Most MSPs provide fixed cost support in the form of remote only or remote and on-site visits. So there are some MSPs, and there's no right or wrong answer here, that offer fixed cost remote, but when they go on site, there's trip cost and there's hourly visits for on site. The most successful MSPs, I can tell you, offer bundles: preventative maintenance only, preventative maintenance and remote support, preventative maintenance, remote support, and on-site support, and then true 24/7. That's where savvy MSPs kind of build these packages and therefore get the fixed income to pay for that. But most MSPs, frankly, don't charge extra for on-site support. They offer the bundled services and do it that way. Just Rustin has asked, just a ballpark, what's the average price per user that MSPs are charging now? Rustin, that drastically depends on your market. Rural Kansas and Manhattan are two different markets. But if I look at the macro level on a per user basis, it depends on the price of the services that you're offering. Preventative maintenance alone might be $10 to $15 a month. Remote support and preventative maintenance may be in that $30 to $40 a month. On-site support and remote support and preventative maintenance may be in the $100 per user. It really depends, in my mind, on the infrastructure that you're managing. If they have a lot of servers and a small number of people, they're going to pay a higher cost per user. You do not want to have a fixed cost per user when your service cost can change wildly for each customer. You have to look at each customer, the intensity of the environment, the number of locations, wireless access, the maturity of their network, the server count, the cloud application count, the mobile devices like iPhones and iPads. You've got to look at every customer and say, okay, this customer should pay less or more than average. So don't go out there and say, you know what, a florist without a server should pay the same price as as a company that has more servers than people. You just can't look at it that way. So I would recommend that you build device-based pricing and go per customer, divide that by the number of customers or users that they have to get a unique price per user for every customer. Now, if you asked a question, I'll give you a straightforward answer as well, in addition to what I'd recommend, which is the average cost per user for on-site and remote support and preventative is around $100 a month. Nick has asked, as a small MSP, marketing is definitely the hardest thing for us to do. Are there any marketing vendors that would be a good fit for MSPs on a smaller budget? One of the best things about an MSP is that it's cheaper than in-house IT. So marketing is actually the same way. There are a lot of MSP marketing companies out there that cost you far less than what you would imagine. For instance, Marketovia, I know the most, obviously, because I work there. You can outsource your marketing, including a website, SEO, SEM, social, all of your marketing activities for roughly $3,000 a month. It's not very expensive. You can get an appointment setter that's actually setting appointments for your sales team for like $2,500 a month. So why those may sound like a lot for a smaller MSP, remember that they result in leads that result in sales. You can almost always pay for a marketing activity done properly within 120 days. So you only have negative cash flow for 3, 4, 5 months, and all of a sudden it's net profit. For every lead you bring in, you've already paid for it for life. you've paid for all of your marketing for life by generating residual income streams. So if you're spending, let's say, $6,000 a month on marketing and demand gen, for example, so marketing and appointment setting, $6,000 a month, that sounds like a lot. But for the average MSP, that's somewhere in the 9-10 customers, and all of a sudden that recurring expense is covered by recurring income. So every company you add, it goes over time. The best way to kind of think about that is to compare the lifetime value of a customer in terms of profit and revenue to the cost of getting that customer. You cannot look at things on a month-by-month basis. In other words, you're going to pay a fixed cost per month for marketing, but the customers that you get from that marketing, you're going to have for 5, 10, 15, even 20 years. So you're investing in a future cash flow every time you invest in getting a lead. So be careful and make wise business decisions by thinking that way. If you have any questions for that, go to Marketopia. I'd be happy to have a chat with you and walk you through what the valuable lead is for you, how many leads you need, and frankly, what the ROI would look like. For most MSPs, a lead is worth about $10,000 over the lifetime value of a customer that a lead gets you. And the lead, as we looked on that previous slide, can be in the $1,000 or so per lead. So getting a lead is a very, very profitable thing for an MSP. And the earlier you invest in marketing and demand gen, the faster you'll get the sales that pay for it. All right. Are there any other? Oh, here's another one's coming on the chat line. Greg is asked, best way to change from pricing by hardware and pricing by user? Frankly, you just do it. If your existing customers aren't going to fight it because it's actually the same bill. So instead of billing per user, you send them a notification that says, hey, we're changing to a per user pricing model. It's simpler on you. It's simpler on us. So instead of paying $1,000 a month for 10 users, let's say, we're going to charge you $100 per user, which is also $1,000. Customers are not resistant to changing to per user models if the pricing doesn't change. For net new customers, you simply make the change. Change it to pricing by user. As I mentioned the calculations earlier, those are great ways to do it. And frankly, customers do not balk at it at all. It's the same price, and it's just a different way of thinking about it. Nick has asked, as a small MSP, marketing is definitely the hardest thing for us to do. Are there any marketing vendors for us? Actually, I think that might have been the same question. Yeah, same question on chat and questions. I mentioned that before. Let me give you a couple of vendors out there. MSP Sales Pros does an excellent job with appointment setting. Ulistic is out there. Pronto on the lower end, if they want a website that's more content copied from other places, Pronto creates a beautiful looking website. Marketopia is out there. It's probably the largest. We have about 100 people now dedicated to MSP marketing. You have, there's one I just mentioned, Kendra Lee. She has a great marketing firm as well. There are a lot of marketing companies out there. The key is to find someone who knows your business. You don't want to have to teach them how your business runs and teach them about the value proposition that you offer. You want to try and find a firm who knows your industry, knows your business, and can frankly not waste any money by marketing poorly. That's a big mistake. So while a lot of people prefer to work with local vendors or friends or relatives, it's really important that they understand the product and the value position your product brings. When you go to market something like DNS Filter, you want to make sure that they understand how that works and the value that it brings, right? You don't want to put yourself in a position where they're marketing Clorox or diapers one minute and then they're marketing DNS Filter the next, because it's going to be on you to teach them not only the product but the value proposition, and then they're going to have to guess how to create a compelling event for an end user to give them a lead. So you want to go to someone who understands the business. So that's a really important aspect when it comes to marketing. And then finally, I'll tell you that don't waste your money on marketing unless you complement it with an outbound calling. B2B marketing can take up to 29 touch points to get a lead if you rely on email and social and things like that. And most MSPs just don't have the patience to wait for 29 touch points to occur. So you have to make that outbound call to complement the marketing efforts. So whether you do it yourself or you outsource it to a calling company or find a company that can do both marketing and appointment setting, that's where the money is. You got to do both at the same time if you want to maximize the number of leads, maximize the ROI, and maximize the profitability that your investment should bring. Any more questions? Go ahead and type them in. Josh, is there anything that you'd like to add here? Obviously, there's a lot that we've talked about that centers around DNS Filter and the great solutions that you offer. Is there anything you'd like to kind of mention associated with any of the topics that we've covered?
Well, Terry, I just think great overall. I mean, I learned a lot. Your experience really shines through in a lot of this, and I'm really excited for the series that we're doing. So just for anybody that may have joined a little bit later, Terry's actually doing a 5-webinar series with us, and so a lot of the topics he was talking about, sales efficiency and demand gen and how to get more leads, are actually things he'll dive into in more detail in the future. So if you're really interested in that, I know based on our poll results that we're getting so far, a lot of people are interested in that. So go ahead and just plan to be, it's going to be every other week on Wednesday. We're calling it Webinar Wednesdays. And so you can join us again.
All right. Looks like we have a new chat request in here. Andy has asked, how is Marketopia different than Robin Robbins? Robin Robbins tells you what to do. Marketopia does it for you. That would be the main difference. Lead gen and more from the program. Andy, yeah, I would explore. Robin's a great firm. Robin Robbins is a person, obviously, but she also has a great firm. They do a good job of teaching you how to market. They give you a toolkit, and then you go out there and send the direct mail pieces and things like that. And that's a very good low-cost model. And if you have marketing talent or time to do marketing yourself internally, it can be a solve for you. Marketopia is more of a done-for-you type product. So it really depends on you and your business and what's best for you. But Robin's great. There's a lot of great firms out there. Everyone has their unique value proposition. You can, choose what's best for you. I should have mentioned her before because she's certainly a big player in the space. And she's just a different person because she's more toolkit-centric than she is service-centric, if that makes sense. All right. Any other questions or chat? Here's a couple more coming in. What is the best channel to promote? I assume you mean the best channel from a marketing perspective, and I think that's what you're trying to say. The best marketing channel to promote your business on is as many as you can afford to do. Everyone, if you think about it, if someone calls you and talks to you about DNS Filter, let's say, the first thing you're gonna do is to go to DNS Filter's website. The second thing you're gonna do is probably go to their social media page or their blog. You can't really pick and choose. You have to be impressive in every aspect of marketing and perceived value, because perception is reality, right? If you look better than other people, you're gonna be able to charge more and win more than other people. Perception is reality. The last thing you wanna do is look worse than you really are, because it's very inexpensive to look good in Facebook, for example, or Twitter or LinkedIn or your website. It's very inexpensive to look good. It's very difficult and expensive to be good. Yet most MSPs focus all their time and energy around being good, when in the sales process, that actually doesn't matter. You've got to look good to win the customer. Only after you win the customer do you have the revenue and margin to invest in the service professionals necessary to actually be good. So promote yourself out there as many things as you can do. The only thing I will tell you is, no matter what marketing activity you do, in digital marketing or traditional marketing, you have to follow up with a phone call in B2B. Of all this lead, Marketopia generates a lead every 5 minutes or so for managed services, and I can tell you that the most successful have digital marketing and then appointment setting. But if you have that formula, digital marketing is only producing maybe 1/10 of all leads presented. The real money is where you overlap those two and have the caller calling to follow up on the people you just marketed to, right? It's called a multi-touch marketing campaign. That's where 9 out of 10 leads comes from. So I hope that answers your question, Andy. Any more questions? Go ahead and type them in. We have a few minutes left. Sounds like there's a big need for marketing and sales. So I think that's some of our upcoming sessions, right, Josh?
I'm really excited that that's what we had planned already.
Good. At the end of the day, guys, you're smart to think that way. There's a lot of great tools out there like DNS Filter that you'd like to sell themselves, but unfortunately they don't. You have to get out there and get leads for them. You've got to be able to present sales proposals that get signed. You want to be proud of what you present, and you want to create a compelling value proposition out there so that you win. At the end of the day, you got to win. And that's what we're going to talk about over this 5-webinar series. We're going to talk about different aspects. Hopefully today you got a great understanding of why managed services, especially cloud and on-site and remote managed services, is so powerful for you to be a part of. Hopefully today you got that. Understand that the future is bright, that the economy is good, and that the opportunity has never been brighter for everyone to go out there and make more money in managed services. Andy's asked a question for you. Is there going to be a different link for future sessions? Josh, I believe the answer to that is yes, but you can confirm.
Hello, Andy. Actually, it will be a different link, but we will go ahead and send it out. We'll make sure that all of you guys are going to get that link as well, but we'll send that out prior to the next webinar.
Great. All right. Josh, you want to close us down?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. Look forward to talking to you guys in a couple weeks. Good luck and happy selling.